Hello, I'm Chris Burns, and welcome to The Network, where we connect into a matrix of newsmakers to get to the heart of an issue. And watch out, they've got to answer in 25 seconds or less, or else. Let's take a look at that issue right now. Party killjoy or justified safety cop? The European Union draws ridicule and criticism for a recent toy warning that kids under 8 shouldn't blow up balloons unattended. One British toy shop owner tells a newspaper the world has gone mad. With December the biggest shopping month of the year, watchdog groups say the dangers are out there, with choking hazards and toxic chemicals topping the list. One notorious case, millions of Chinese-made aqua dots, or bindis, were recalled in 2007 after some children were sickened by a cheap chemical similar to a date rape drug. The EU's Toy Safety Directive may seem over the top sometimes, but aqua dots are just one example of a hazardous toy getting past regulators. The EU Injury Database estimates more than 100,000 toy-related injuries a year among European children aged 7 or younger. Now, wired into this edition of the network is, here in Brussels, Stefano Sotto, head of the European Commission's RAPEX unit, and the EU's, which is the EU's rapid alert system for all dangerous consumer products. Sylvia Maurer, who's safety expert at BEUC, that's the European Consumers Organization, which represents 42 independent consumers groups across Europe, and Katrien van Riet, who's Director General of Toy Industries of Europe. The TIE represents companies and organizations accounting for about 80% of the 5 billion euros in European toy sales and 50 billion euros worth globally. Let's start with a question to all of you, starting with Stefano. The aqua dots, or bindis, that you saw there on the package were pulled off the market, but not before a number of children were sickened. Is that a failure of the toy directive? Is it a failure of RAPEX falling down on the job?
No, I don't think it's a failure of the toy directive or RAPEX. The accident, by the way, happened mostly in Australia. The moment the problem was discovered, the products were pulled from the market. Nothing is perfect, but there was swift reaction and, fortunately, no serious injuries in Europe.
Now, Sylvia, is this just one example of this getting past regulators?
Well, yes, I think this was a good example, but indeed we need to take more action to withdraw also in Europe dangerous products from the shelves before they reach the consumer. And that can only be done if member states do more activities on market surveillance.
Katrien, how come we couldn't stop that before it got to the market?
I fully agree with the importance of market surveillance. The reputable toy manufacturers certainly are doing their best to make sure that they comply with all the necessary, very strict requirements. Actually, Europe has extremely strict requirements on toy safety, but we do need to make sure that everybody plays by the same rules.
Okay, let's go back to Stefano, because Stefano, you can do a little bit of show and tell for us. The one is a doll that's a choking hazard. If you can pick that up and show it to us. How common is that? And how many like those get past regulators?
Well, this in particular did not pass regulators because...
You can hold it up a little bit more there. Hold it up. There we go. Yep.
And there's a small part that fits into the small part cylinder, should not be present in toys intended for children under 3.
That's the measuring cylinder that measures to determine whether it's a hazardous piece, right?
For small children under 3, exactly. And this particular toy was stopped by Hungarian customs and never made it to the shelves, basically.
Okay, and that was made in China. That wasn't made in Europe?
This was made in China as the large majority of all the toys, including the very good ones that are on our market.
Mm-hmm. Sylvia, what do you think about that? Again, are there a lot of those kind of toys out there that parents should be watching out for?
For instance, last year, our German member Stiftung Warentest tested 50 toys, and they found problems in 42 of them. And this referred to wooden toys, plastic toys, dolls, and so on.
Okay, Katrien, and how come that couldn't be stopped by your industry? How come those things why do they get to the market? Shouldn't you stop them?
That's exactly why we have market surveillance. And of course, I mean, at the moment, we have extremely strict requirements, but there is a difference between reputable toy manufacturers and those people who don't take the rules too seriously. So that's exactly why we need market surveillance to stop those. And it's part of the safety system. Market surveillance is part of the safety system.
Okay, Stefano, let's look at another example of the toy directive working. In this case, an inflatable, hold that up to the camera, inflatable swim ring with a phthalate band for that kind of use with kids, DEHP, I believe it's called. Is the directive tough enough or not tough enough?
Well, look, the directive is, the European rules are the toughest in the world. We have a system which has succeeded in having the strictest rule in the world, and at the same time the widest possible choice for consumers ever. But as Sylvia and Catherine were saying, rules are only as good as their enforcement.
Okay, Sylvia, tough enough or not tough enough, the toy directive here in Europe?
Well, when it comes to the chemical requirements, I think we still have some concerns. First of all, the new requirements on chemicals will only enter into force in 2013, meaning still years to go until some improvements can be made. And we also found that there are some important loopholes in the legislation. So from our perspective, the text of the Toy Safety Directive needs to be amended to raise the level on chemical safety as well.
Do you agree, Catherine, or are you afraid then that there might be too much regulation and that could be a choking hazard for your industry, right?
As Sylvia was saying, certain chemicals are being addressed, and that will come into force in 2013. I understand her request to do it faster, but you do have to give the industry sufficient time to adapt to these things. And even, I mean, we don't even have the requirements to make sure that we would comply with the stricter rules, and how it would be tested. All of that still has to be determined.
Okay, Stefano, the Stiftung Warentest, which Sylvia mentioned, it said that 1 out of 6 toys that it tested had an issue with safety. Isn't that a problem that the Toy Safety Directive is not addressing?
No, it's not a problem that the Toy Safety Directive is not addressing. It's a problem of policing the market. And by the way, I've seen the results, very respectable, definitely not a random sample of the toys that are on the market. They did targeted sampling, which is what they should have done, but it's not a random sample of the toys that are on the market. Consumers
demand cheap, plentiful toys. Is materialism to blame? This is another kind of question where shouldn't we just have better, fewer, and yes, perhaps more expensive toys, Sylvia?
Well, I think when we look at the problems, it's not always related only to cheap toys or to very expensive toys. When it comes to chemicals, you can also have problems like substances that can cause allergies in very expensive toys. I think here it comes really to better regulation and better market surveillance.
Bindi's removed the chemical, what we saw there, the aquadots. That was the link to a date rape drug. Is it better to keep maybe all chemicals out? Are some companies looking at kids as guinea pigs and just trying these chemicals and seeing if they work or not? Let's go to Catherine on that.
Certainly not. Absolutely not. There are very strict requirements. I mean, for some of our companies have existed for years and years. Our reputation is extremely important to us, as is the safety of our consumers. We would never do such a thing.
Aren't these toy regulations, if they're letting these chemicals get through, are they not perhaps tough enough, Catherine?
I don't think they're letting those chemicals through. In the case that you mentioned, clearly there was a mistake made, and that shouldn't have happened. And that's why it's very fortunate that it was caught and that we were able to withdraw it from the market.
Okay. Maybe we can just sort of sum this up with, do you think that toys now are safer than ever before, or are there still real hazards out there? Let's start with Sylvia.
People need to be reassured what kinds of toy they can buy safely. And there we need also the support of the member states to act actually and to make sure that only safe products are in shops.
And parents should be checking websites like yours and also perhaps the Commission site. Stefano, are toys, you said earlier, they were safer than ever, but are they really? Children are still getting sick and getting hurt.
There is a campaign that the Commission, Vice President Tajani, is launching now with safety tips for parents in the wake of the Christmas season. But if you think about the toys that we were playing with when we were kids, not many of them with batteries accessible batteries leaking acid, dodgy plugs, chemicals in paints, etc. There is no golden age in the past. Toys have never been safer than today.
That's all the time we got for now. Thanks for joining us on the show, and I'd like to thank all our guests, Stefano Soros, Sylvia Maurer, and Catherine Van Riet. I'm Chris Burns, and until next time, thanks for connecting with The Network.